Hello everybody and welcome back to Infinity Nikki fandom iceberg, which in the previous episode I covered the first 3 tiers. Now it's time for the last 3 tiers. It's the same as the last time. I'm taking quite a lot of links and posts from like one singular user. I'm filling in where they didn't know something or where I think a different link might fit the situation better. And it's the same post as the last time as well. All of my links and the link to this post are all in the description down below. So if you want to look at each situation to situation, or if you want to look at the whole iceberg, or if you want to look through the comments, you're free to do so, to go on your own internet sleuthing journey. So we are starting off tier 4 with homophobic Reddit mod, which is a really old drama, specifically of unofficial Infinity Nikki Reddit, which is the place that I tend to frequent really a lot. This drama has been logged in the subreddit drama. Effectively, there was a singular moderator that has decided that sapphic pictures with 2 girls are not safe for work and inappropriate. They were booted in like under a day, and there were several like funny memes that were made about the whole thing, like the myth of consensual kiss. I consent, and Super Cream Puffs goes, I don't. Isn't there somebody you forgot to ask? As a bit of a funny, when that has happened, Infinity Nikki official people have released a statement that they're not affiliated with the unofficial subreddit and that drama has absolutely nothing to do with them. So that was a bit of a funny, but really the situation was dealt with in literally under a day. So it's like just a blip in the Infinity Nikki history, and you're forgiven if you never knew about that one. Mushroom soup, considering that its land is populated with mushrooms, we have quite a few jokes in-game about mushroom spas really smelling and tasting like mushroom soup, or people thinking that they're very edible until they realize that they're conscious and awake and a living being. For example, one example of such jokes is, it does feel familiar. Wait, Nikki, could it be? Star anise in hot pot seasoning? So the Ling Lang merchants sold hot pot seasoning to the shroomlings, and after soaking in it, the water basically turned into undercooked mushroom soup that makes you see things. And then the mushrooms don't actually know what a hot pot is. So there's a lot of jokes in game that they're very much edible, and that their saunas and their like hot springs and everything just smell highly of mushroom soup, and that other people would like to eat the mushrooms if they weren't so sentient. Thankfully, the story is lighthearted and we don't have storylines about actual living mushrooms getting eaten. Long-legged Momo. Long-legged Momo was the focus of patch 1.4. It was a bit of a hallucinogenic place with like this trippy mask that makes you live out your desires. And Momo's desire was to have long legs so that he would make a better partner for Nikki and to protect Nikki. There's a whole cutscene of the two of them dancing. There's a whole dungeon themed after it. I put down the YouTube link for the whole dungeon in the description down below, but this is effectively what Momo Longlegs used to look like. I still have some pictures from that season myself. I thought that it was very amusing, though a lot of people found it to also be nightmare fuel. Cultural appropriation clothing. This refers to some situations that we have had ever since Itzalan dropped. One of those was 2.0 had a what looked like to be a Native American headdress, and people were trying to identify whether it's a Chinese thing or whether it's a Native American thing, because that is the headdress in question. But this is not the only time when cultural appropriation clothing has come up as a conversational topic. We also had like a faux belly dancer outfit as a 4-star on one of the 2.0 banners. Later on, there were also problems with flamenco dress. If the game veers into exploring something that isn't entirely Western themed, there tends to be questions on whether or not it is portrayed correctly. Well, outside of the Chinese stuff kind of gets forgiven. So it's a conversation that keeps on coming back, and it's, yeah, it's a sensitive topic. And if you have been here during the 2.0 era, which we're still in, you probably have seen this conversation happen over and over again yourself. Glitches are art. I'm pretty sure that what they refer to is the fact that a lot of people will use glitched out states as a way to take funny pictures or interesting pictures or artistic pictures. Oftentimes, people do enjoy glitches. One of the most enjoyable glitches that got taken out really fast, unfortunately, was the white hair bug, where you could bug out your hair cut to be completely white, including the haircuts that normally don't have access to white dye. That got patched in under 10 hours, and people were very unhappy about it. But yes, there has been multiple times when Infinity Nikki glitches out for people, and people use those as opportunities to take pictures. P dress. It refers to the fact that for some reason, whenever we have a water-themed thing, Infold likes to include a yellow version of it, which apparently is supposed to go down as like being gold colored. What it goes down is P. It's giving P. The fact that they tend to do this with water-based dresses is, by this point in the community, a running joke. Kidnapped in Sea of Stars. This video in particular is, we're pretty sure, the video that's being referred to, where another user grabbed them by the hand. Normally people like ask you to illuminate, and you don't actually know what they want from you. So people tend to illuminate just to even ask what the other person wants. And not always people that illuminate you act rationally. I got illuminated once, and it was so awkward because I tried communicating with the person. They did not communicate back. They did drag my Nikki to places. I'm gonna assume that they wanted to take pictures. I stayed around for a little bit in case they wanted to take pictures, and I took some pictures myself, and then I awkwardly had to say that it's time for me to go. Like, I have other things to be doing in the game, and they never got a reply from that person ever, so I don't even know if they spoke English. But situations like these, where you're just dragged around the whole map, tend to be fairly common. Situations where another person actually drowns you also tends to be fairly common for some reason. This person, I think, just got summoned for question mark. Yeah. It's just welcome to wordless co-op community, everybody. It gets weird here. And this is another topic on the same vein. I just kidnapped by a Nikki to the Pink Phoenix Nikki I was goofing around with on the American server just now. Please know I'm not mad, but we danced around on the beach, we played tag as various animals, I showed off my scammatic victim fit. You showed off your Phoenix fit. Freaking gorgeous, by the way. You took my hand, T-posed, and you flew off with me like a deranged stork. Disappeared and dropped me into the ocean. These kind of stories of random people just like asking to illuminate, grabbing you with no actual additional information and doing weird shit. Yeah, that's like pretty, it's a pretty common thing. Dying in a fire is common in Mirrorland. This is only one example in this thread, but I'm gonna tell you about several others. My brain likes to randomly remind me of that time when Vivienbo, which is a Fey Wish sprite, tells you during a celebration that she once had to listen to baby wish sprites all die in a fire and how the memories of all the screaming still haunts her. I think I'm trying to remember which was the season? It wasn't 2.10. There was a 2.9, I think, together with housing, where the whole theme was that a guy lost all of his fellow theater troupe in a fire, and he couldn't accept their deaths. So he made a bad bargain where he got to keep them as almost mechanical dolls. They're kind of very lifelike, but they are mechanical dolls that he keeps alive through his own life force in order to try and put on performances with them as if nothing has happened to live out their desire of being a great performing troupe. And the dress, the final evolution of that patch, of that dress, it's on fire. Because Nikki was all like, what an inspiring story about the theater fire. Let me remind you of the bad times by wearing the dress that's on fire. Now, I think it was the storyline of 1.11 patch, where part of the patch we had a secondary story that focused on Miss Gloves from Philomena's storyline, like the Queen Philomena storyline. She was recruited to be a spy and an infiltrator of Philomena's courts in general, and the recruiter has set her orphanage on fire, from what I remember, and then said that it was Philomena that did it, that it was like her court that did it. So for a while they had like an orphan girl trained to hate the ruling monarch and to infiltrate the ruling monarch, and she chose the ruling monarch over the bad guy's side. And for this, her corpse was separated from her arms, her doomed to just be her pair of arms, with everyone else cursed to forget that she even existed. So, you know, Infinity Nikki storylines, they're definitely very fluffy, but the fire storyline keeps on being like a recurrent thing. I think we should like mix it up. I think it's time to start talking about all the sailors that have drowned at sea at some point. I think we should put drowning into the mix, especially considering how careful Momo wants you to be with water. I think that would be a great fit for the game. Time for Tier 5! We're starting off with leaks are poison to all creation. which is that one time 10 months ago when Infold decided to mail out to everybody a rubber band hammer, make posters saying leaks are poison to all creation, and send out strongly worded letters to absolutely everyone that was playing the game at the time, stating that nobody should ever share leaks. When leaks happen, it's very clearly that it is one of your employees doing it, as they don't even have outsiders testing the game. Like, all of it happens inside of the studio, so if leaks happen, it's not really coming from the players, it's coming from inside the house. This was definitely a move and a half, and people remember it for being incredibly ridiculous. Pigless Record Store. We're all pretty sure that this is talking about the 2.2's Wangshang mask stores, where you get a Momo cloak if you collect all the masks. And very famously, you practically could never, like, get a pig mask that is actually of the correct rarity. And even if you're getting, like, the gamble masks, which you need to, like, rub off, pigs was, like, the last animal for, well, for practically everybody. So it made people question if that thing was bugged or not. Flick or fuck? 1.6. Just take a look at this. This was official material for the introduction for the patch of 1.6. What of the wand? It's a very unfortunate typeface. You can see the eye in there. You can very clearly see the eye, but the L is so close that it made people do a double take with this one. And it's kind of remembered fondly. Honestly, the typeface fuck-ups are kind of fun. Bulkhead was the original die system. After the die system released, people made posts asking, so what was the point of the Bulkhead dying event exactly? It was in 1.3, and the event was the NPCs, or like the text around the event, stated that this is like a preview of the upcoming die system, get excited and everything. And during the quest, they were like, depending on the kind of things that you put in, you can put in 3 things into this like mist thing. The cow will change color, which is just... It was a very random thing. But people assumed that it meant something, because they assumed that they could figure out the combinations of what kind of materials they need to use, and that this is gonna translate to us being able to dye clothes. Mind you, there is a whole facility for dyeing clothes inside Stoneville. It looked like they were setting up for a story to do with that. If you look at our palette names, they are also named after materials that we have in-game. Considering everything was signaling that the die system was gonna be like this, the fact that we got a paid-for die system with no real free-to-play entry to it that ran off die prisms, and when I mean free-to-play entry, you get some amount of die prisms every single week that you can collect for free from the store, so it's not like you can't die at all, but the Bulkhead event made it seem like you will be able to use the materials that we have in game in order to dye your outfits. And a lot of people even like set out to find the combinations, to collect the materials, to do all of the preparations for that, and that's just not the way that the game went. And considering that palettes are still named after those materials, people think that making it a paid feature was kinda a last minute decision, and it really felt like it. So while I can't really say what they were intending with it, I can't say that that's what the community felt like at the time. Frozen copyright issues. One of the eyes inside the game accidentally had the Frozen logo in it, and it was from the permanent banner. They changed the veiled and white contacts to remove the Frozen 2 logo. The snowflakes are kinda harder to see now. This is what was inside the eye beforehand. It looked like somebody might have taken it as either a free-to-use texture of a snowflake or as in like a stand-in texture and they just forgot to replace it. And for the longest time, those contacts, like almost like a year straight, those contacts were in game and there were absolutely no problems. Then either Disney reached out to Infold or Infold realized that they really whoopsied. They suddenly changed those contacts and they removed the Disney 2 Frozen logo from them. The last entry on Tier 5, Pepper Jim Knight Thick Dick Daddy. During 1.11, we had a board game that everybody has very bad memories of because the whole community absolutely collapsed on the board game. I don't even know if there were prizes for the winning team. I think maybe they had like a trophy furnishing and that was literally the only thing that was different. But effectively, you were investing points into tiles. Whoever team invested the most points held the tile. The whole competition has been lopsided, very much in favor of Gilded Hearts, because Gilded Hearts just had this pink aesthetic, and as such, they had a lot of people applying for it. Because of that, the other two teams teamed up against Gilded Hearts. Gilded Hearts felt like they were under attack. There was also a group of fairly, let's say hardcore, in order to not be offensive. Let's just call these fairly hardcore players that made something like upwards of 20 alts each in order to just farm points, because you can access this competition as a free-to-play account practically the moment that you're out of tutorial, so they just spam made a whole bunch of accounts to then have even more points going towards Gilded Hearts. It was a whole thing. It was like, community took it incredibly serious to a point where people are like, we can't have PvP in this game. We can never have PvP in this game. But anyway, at certain points on those tiles, a boss would spawn, and the team that took down the boss would get extra points. Whoever got the last hit on the boss, their username would also be displayed for everyone to see. This is how we arrive at the message of stylist Thick Dick Daddy of Pepper Jam has completely purified corrupted monster Chickda. Their group gains an influence generation boost of 20 per minute for 12 hours. And either they enforce the name change of that person, or they banned them, because after a while that message just displayed as stylist. Pepper Jam has completely purified the monster Chickta. But the community got some nice laughs at this situation in particular, because the whole patch, it was a war zone. Nobody found it funny at the time. Tier 6. Avicinda top, Extraroda bottom. Not only is there a lot of Rule 34 content for these two in particular, apparently quite early in the game's lifespan, this picture was like circulating on Twitter, I think, where people were like shipping them. Like one specific user was like shipping them as humans rather than the they were sprites. And obviously that created ripples through the community, because First of all, no. Secondly, they're Feywish sprites. So now you know. And now I know, because I didn't know this one either. Religious Star Wish bottles. There has been a small controversy rather recently, well, a couple of months ago, which is people are leaving religious messaging inside Star Wish bottles. This one got photographed for being incredibly culty. Your mind is under your control. Feel the love of God. Rejoice, pray, trust in divine providence. Get baptized. Eat his body. It's so culty that I'm not entirely even sure if the person that made these was serious or were they just trying to go for horror vibes. The crosses prove how much God loves you. Your mind is under your control. Feel the love of God and rejoice. Holy people think holy thoughts. Love God, love your neighbor. Pray always without weary. Repent, get baptized, eat his body in church. Trust in divine providence. Let go the past and forgive. Be positive, dream, and smile. Do your best in humble service. Focus and determination. It's not that uncommon to find very Christian messagey bottles of like, have you read the Bible? God loves you and that sort of thing. This one just really stood out for being incredibly, incredibly culty. And fun fact, there was a more recent controversy, which I didn't find the need to record because it's a smaller subreddit and it doesn't really matter. There's a Nikki photography subreddit that recently banned religious but not mythological cosplay, by which they consider things like Aphrodite, Zeus, and Loki to be mythology. They consider God and Jesus to be religion. You can cosplay religious figures like nuns and priests, but you can't cosplay religious gods, well, specific religious gods. And one user brought this up to the bigger subreddit out of like Nikki photography subreddit because that rule was made after they repeatedly cosplayed Nikki Jesus. And they're pretty sure that the rule was made to target specifically them and nobody else, because it's worded in a very weird way where it draws the line that this is religion and like this is mythology. So Nikki has a weird Christianity thing, effectively, which, considering that it's a popular game and that a lot of Western population is heavily Christian, probably doesn't surprise anybody much, but it's still very weird to see, because it's, if there is not a time and place for religion, it probably wouldn't be a dress-up game. Like, the wrong time and place is this. It's definitely, you shouldn't be preaching in Infinity Nikki, is what I'm trying to communicate. Feywish sprites are Nazi. The person collecting links for absolutely everything didn't have a good link for this one, and I don't have a good link for this one either. So, here's a link that's talking about how friggin' weird it was that Feywish sprites imprisoned people for 15 years, and that Nikki just brushed that off as like a completely normal thing. And that those people, when they got released, were just supposed to return to their normal lives, and one of them even opened a store with their Feywish sprite captors. And now, mind you, they weren't very nice captors, because some of those people died. And they died from torture. The whole Sovereign of Elegant plotline is that she was probably tortured to death as one of the stylists captured by Feywish sprites, and hence why her appearance is really broken. Another part of the possible lore is that she's Nanoi's mom. Like, that she's the mother of Nanoi. So, anyway, 1.0 storyline was definitely a whiplash. And everybody noticed. Everybody noticed how horrible that part was, and there were a lot of posts about it. Birthday party amnesia. This is talking about the first or the second birthday of Infinity Nikki, depending on how you count. Technically, there was a birthday party 0 the moment the game launched, and we had a birthday party 1 right at around the same time as Itzaland released. So, Seer allows you to take all of your friends to your house to celebrate your birthday party for your birthday. And she goes, don't worry, I'm gonna give them slight amnesia. None of them will remember a thing. As if it's so important to keep the Sea of Stars house of Nikki a secret that it's entirely fine to give amnesia to a very large group of people. So the scene was both very wholesome and really friggin' terrifying at the exact same time. Hidden gacha rates. Boy oh boy, I made a whole video about this, but mind you, that video came out at about 1.6, so a lot of people probably haven't known about it. There is a couple of things that you need to know about Infinity Nikki gacha distribution, and the number one thing is that it is not even. You're guaranteed one 5-star piece every 20 pulls. There are a couple things that are not disclosed. One is that we have soft pity. This means that on pull 18 and pull 19, you have a significantly higher chance of getting it than on pulls 1 through 17, with it being guaranteed on pull 20. It's why getting an outfit in 180 pulls rather than 200 pulls is fairly common, because it will be fairly common for people to get a piece every 18 pulls rather than getting a piece every 20 pulls. Hitting the hard pity is the unlucky bit. But another thing is that this is your average distribution for which piece you can expect to drop first. So when it comes to 5-star banners, all accessories, highest drop rate. So you're most likely to get the accessories first, then follows the bigger pieces, gloves, boots, socks, headwear, that sort of thing. And the biggest pieces of the banner, such as like top, bottom, or dress, or hair, tend to be weighted down. Now, mind you, this isn't true banner to banner. Infold will manipulate these rates from time to time, so if something is an extra sought after item, and they know that it's gonna be, it will sometimes go into the rare category even when that's not where it belongs. A good example of this would be most banners that have wings, despite the fact that we could categorize a back piece at about the same level as a shoe or a glove. Back pieces will normally be about as rare to get as the dress, so they will be one of the last things that you're gonna get on the banner. So these kind of rates, they get altered banner to banner by a little bit, but in general, you can expect to get the pieces that you're probably not pulling for, like the accessories first, and the pieces that you would like the most, like the dress, last. There is a way to counter this, which is your Ocean's Blessing. Setting something as the Ocean's Blessing does not increase its drop rate, but it guarantees that on a pull 100 pretty much. So after like you get at the point where you need to get like after 5 pieces, or like on the 5th piece, the pull 100. So on your 5th piece, you're guaranteed to get it. So if you're going after the dress, set it as your Ocean's Blessing and expect that it's gonna take you 100 pulls to get it. This doesn't mean that it's impossible to get it early, but it's highly improbable to get it early. These stats come from ganja.us. The site used to be very prominent and very, very important for early Infinity Nikki, and I would say that the statistics that they gathered through multiple different people registering their pull history through there are still very, very important for the game, so the site is worth supporting. However, after a while, Infold allowed you to see how many pulls like each piece took you and your pull history on the wider Infold site. And because you don't need to import data, it's already your account data, most people just went into using the regular Infold official account thingy rather than gonjo.us, which is a separate fan-led website. Still, we thank them for the information, and this is something that is quite important to know if you're gonna be pulling on banners. Moving to one of the two remaining positions, and good because my voice is really going from doing these. What is Momo? Momo specifically states several times that he's not a cat and that he is from a clan, Momo, and is the only representative of Clan Momo in the game, which is to imply that there is a group of creatures that look like him somewhere out there. It also implies that his ears might not be cat ears. It's just the style of cloak that he tends to wear on the regular. So the big question is, what is Momo? We never got a follow-up of where Momo came from. We don't really know what his clan is like, how many members there are, what kind of creature they are, or why is Momo specifically like traveling with Nikki, and why is nobody finding this weird whatsoever? So, what is Momo? And the last bit is Floral Wish refugees. There is a group of refugees right on the wall with one of the regions that we have a wall to, and I'm pretty sure that they're escaping Empire of Light. I believe it was. They're living in tents, they look hungry, they look worn, and their storyline is incredibly dark, but it's only mentioned in passing. As this comment says, hey, remember that time the owner of the Daisy Inn talked about an watching entire family of Umbraso refugees get slaughtered by soldiers from the Empire of Light right in front of his eyes? Right before they were able to cross the border to safety? Because I think about it a lot. In other words, the Empire of Light storyline that we're right next to is dark as all shit, and we're just treating it as set dressing for now. Yay! So anyways, congratulations to you for getting through the whole iceberg of Infinity Nikki. I think that such fan projects are an absolute delight, and I'm very glad to see that this one was made. I tried my best to explain the whole iceberg, and even though I used another user's helpful material from here, I'm still not entirely sure that that user or me filling in their gaps could secure the full story on a lot of these sentences. So I think that there's still a bit of internet sleuthing that can be done. For example, the original Kidnapped in Sea of Stars post, because there are several that that statement can refer to. Or perhaps I just want to listen to the stories of other people getting kidnapped inside of Sea of Stars. That could also be a possibility. If you were making an Infinity Nikki iceberg, would you add anything else to this? Or would you like take anything else out? What kind of other things do you remember that have happened within the community for as long as you were in it? Feel free to discuss in the comment sections down below. Otherwise, thank you for listening. Thank you for looking at my own little nerd out at like a fan side project, because this is what effectively is. It's just somebody's for fun thing. Thank you so much for my Patreon supporters, and I hope I'm gonna see you on my other videos. Toodaloo.